Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I'm joined once again by the ever-friendly Sai.
Hello, this is the ever-friendly Sai, and I'm joining the ever-prepared Lucid.
Yeah, except sometimes. I've been late to our little recording get-together a few times. I feel bad about it. Okay, so we're on turn, what is it? Turn 49 now. And I think the game is entering another kind of consolidation phase. That's what I feel like anyway. Arco's kind of given up the ghost, said, hey, everybody, come vulture me. And other than that, there's not really any major action except that thing dying down. And so we're entering another phase where, and it could even be a long one. And in this one, some of the things we're going to talk about in this episode, we're entering another
Okay,
phase before the next wars break out. But there could be a long period of power consolidation if people don't want to pull the trigger on what may be the final set of wars.
well, I know that, so while I do agree with you that we're going to be entering a phase where we don't really know what the next war is going to look like, I do want to say that Arco does have a major last stand against Gath this turn.
Oh, right. So Arca,
So,
he's still doing his turns, as we'll see. He has a scripted army. I think you and I took a peek at this yesterday
mhm,
when we were recording. So, yeah, you're right. Then we do have something cool in store for you. It's a great point.
yeah, so he's not quite dead yet,
Right.
but he's definitely been putting in less effort, I would say, than he had been before inviting folks in to vulture him. And what he's playing on right now is essentially out of spite, though why he's particularly spiteful towards Gath, I'm not sure, but he is. So that's where
Right.
he's throwing his weight.
So we'll start with some messages. We got a message here from TNG. More assassins from Pythium and a bunch of Satyr. The Satyr are now dead. We put our Great Eagles on bodyguards for all our key mages, which is why our Serpent's Blessing caster did not go down. Meanwhile, we're getting big and fat, and I'm sure people are taking notice, though it's not like the others aren't getting pretty big too. And there's some pretty horrifying nations still in the game, so pay no attention to the TNG summoning 15 Celestial Soldiers, 10 cubes, and 1 Lich a turn.
That's what he's talking about, his summon army. And those are all great, actually.
Yeah,
I actually 100% approve of all those. Sea Soldiers was one of the units that we kind of touched on at the very start of the game of like, maybe if TNG's trying to go late, this is something they can look at using. And he's actually looking to use them. So that's awesome. I'm
yeah,
real excited to see those in mass.
yeah. I mean, they are super top end soldiers. They're not ultra efficient, but they're not bad deals. You know?
Yeah. If you have a glut of gems and
Yeah.
you need to turn your air gems to combat power, they're pretty good at that. And it's mostly just because their stats are so amazing. Like they've got sky high attack and defense to the point that they look like stat blessed sacreds coming out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, they will, especially. I mean, the thing is, TNG's research isn't amazing, but like if he were to have to fight Gath, for example, if he drops demonic cleansing and he has like a line of celestial soldiers, like with buffs on them, they'll just tear apart Seer. Like they are really top end dudes. But, with that, getting rid of demonic cleansing and maybe if they're not buffed enough, the Seer can definitely kill them too. So, but they're very good.
Yeah. And cubes are another great option. They're kind of the answer anything option, as long as you have the buffs to support them. So once Storm starts coming out and Mass Flight is no longer like an available easy fix for their combat speed issues, then we're going to start seeing quickness and possibly even the haste spells if he doesn't have enough water 2 mages with or water gems spread around. Although given how well he's been using temp gems so far, I actually do expect him to be running around with lenses for those quickness casters.
Yeah, it might be a spell I've never seen cast in a game before, but there's a huge area effect, like 25 area effect, Gift of the Hair spell. I forget what it's called even because I never see it get cast. But that
I think
might
this is called haste.
be. Let's take a quick look here. I think it's enchantment. Is it? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, 25 effect. The combat speed is doubled. This plus quickness, like our quickening, which is the alteration spell.
Do they stack?
Yeah, but I don't know if they stack. I think they stack additively, but not multiplicatively. I think.
Okay, so it would be 3x rather than
Right.
2x.
Right.
Yeah, quickness is the important one though, because for trampling, it essentially like it both increases the combat speed, which increases like the distance they go and the amount that they trample. But it also directly immediately doubles their trampling speed.
Right. Right. But the haste is still nice just for getting them in position because they spend so much time, especially if there's a lot of enemy mages who are going to kill them. They can, it's not hard to kill 40 cubes before they close in combat if you have a big mage supported squad.
Yeah.
Um, but they're really good. Okay, Demosthenes scripted like all the military moves for this upcoming turn. It's some nice stuff. Hopefully, we'll see some of it work out. Cool.
One
Move.
thing that he
Oh,
mentioned yet though are vampires, but hopefully we'll
right.
be seeing those coming up next, given that he's already had his Zotsop hunting for so.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be
Although we
interested to
don't,
see what he does with the liches too. Because, I mean, liches are great to put in armies. They're super versatile. They're great at raiding, but they also, I think, in a game of this level, relying on the immortality is a bit of a trap. Like, they're going to get soul slayed. They're going to get mind hunted. If you know. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But
we're definitely, but TNT is definitely entering their late game army territory, which is really exciting to see.
right. And they're not exactly the first. Gath they might not have all the late game buffs, but Gath has like a late game army. Zabalba, I mean, once you have weapons of sharpness on huge piles of Aussies, I'm going to go ahead and call that a late game army, even if we don't have darkness and some of the other stuff that accompanies it. So we are getting into that phase. So it's good TNG's not being left behind, there.
Xibalba, when they're playing with that Ocelotl hammer style, never really changes their army composition so much as they change what buffs go with it.
Right.
So it's always just this Aussie swarm. It's
Right.
just sometimes the Aussie swarm also comes with darkness and weapons of sharpness and army of gold and fog warriors and on and on.
Right. Okay, message from Pangea. Arco has reportedly sent 180 gems to dispel Earthblood Deepwell. Ooh, spicy. And is giving up his provinces to Vedheim and Tianchi. There are also rumors of him summoning a Harvester of Sorrows to disease Gath's army. Not sure if that's true. Anyway.
Well, if it is, it's inefficient because at this stage in the game, he should be able to just spam Bane Venom charms, and those are much cheaper for just applying the disease.
Yeah, I think so. Are they both Reaper 10? I forget.
I believe so. I think that the advantage of the Harvester is basically that you get the chassis for it, who's this stealthy, super high map move guy.
Right.
So you can send him wherever he needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Reaper 10.
Okay. Which turns out to be, I can't, maybe it's 10% of people get diseased.
Bane Venom Charm is actually Reaper 5 now.
Okay.
I'd forgotten that it had gotten nerfed. So the Harvester of Stars is actually marginally more efficient.
Okay. And for the pop kill side, it's half of the Reaper ability is how much pop kill you get. So the Harvester of Stars will kill 5%, and the Bane Venom Charm, I think, kills 2.5%. But maybe the disease is still at 10% and 5%. So anyway, we're thinking about Black Deathing his cap to assert dominance. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. I mean, it's not going to be it's going to be Gath's cap. So in a way, it's a low key, like.
Well, they don't know that yet.
Yeah. Okay. That's true. We'll find out at the end of this turn, though. Yeah. So we're set back, and the TNG, Vedheim, Arethia are becoming dangerously strong. From our limited point of view, we still need to do the same thing. Research like crazy and wait for an opportunity to grow in multiple coalitions versus the big guys of the moment. I think Pan is one of the big guys of the moment, but maybe...
He absolutely is, yeah.
Maybe somebody makes a play and tries to break free, like get way ahead, and then they'll go after them. So I think...
The only person that could be is TNG.
Right.
If TNG starts rolling over Arethia, then, Pan has someone else that they can point to. But outside of that, the Pan-Gath axis is the strongest.
Right, that's what I think too. Okay, and as we are close to the 3 game leaders... Wait, what? As we are close? You are one of the game leaders, dude.
I think he has a misinterpretation of Vedheim's power, I would say. Because Vedheim is significantly smaller than he is.
Right, like provinces, he's number 3. Forts, he's number 1 by a fucking landslide, which is a super important graph in my opinion. Income, he's 1 by number 1 by a margin, like 20% above, or 10%, 15% above number 2.
He also has the highest integral of income,
right?
Which means that he has the most gold banked or in the field.
Right. Gym income, he's number 3.
But even that's deceptive because he's in on the Maelstrom, I believe.
It's not Maelstrom he's in on. He's in on...
Oh, wait, no, that's...
Oh, he was in on...
He was in on
Earthblood that got taken down this turn.
He's also, I believe, I would need to double check this. I believe that he's the co-financier of Vedheim's impending overcast of Maelstrom.
Okay, that's also possible. But he says he's going to be casting Mother Oak again and sharing it with Vedheim. But he was also a partner in Earthblood Deepwell, which went down. So we can probably see that in his gem
He
graph.
seems to like partnering with these gem globals.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Where's Gath? Wait, did it go down back here? Was this Earthblood Deepwell going down a couple turns
Yeah.
ago? Okay. So that's old news.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had been in on that Earthblood Depot, which most likely didn't really pay for itself because it got dispelled like 2 turns later. He is splitting a Mother Oak with Vedheim, and he's also splitting a Maelstrom with Vedheim being the caster for that.
Does he
That's
say
kinda
that
funny.
here? The
No,
Maelstrom?
he and Vedheim talked about it in Discord.
Okay.
It's just kind of funny that he's been like in on sharing Gem Global so much.
There's a very strong. I would put Pangea as position 1 at the moment, just because of the Pangea Gath alliance, which I value. Like I think they really trust each other, and I value that highly. And the fact that he's number 1 in income by a big margin, I kind of put him at 1. You could make a
that's
case
fair.
he's 2, but
I
he's
think that
definitely
he
not
also
close to the 3 game leaders. Please.
Yeah, I also think so. This is again also coming from Discord, but Pan's players are not confident in their position in the game because they don't know how to scale, which is kind of interesting. And this is going to go up hopefully like late enough that it doesn't make a difference. But in my opinion, Pan has great scaling options because their mages scale so well into the very dangerous late game portions because center sages have so many things going for them, like their mobility and their hit points and all
Yeah.
that good stuff. So between that and the fact that they have big astral on their god, which means that if they get big enough, they can do wish shenanigans, including Nexus. I think that their scaling is fine, but the
Yeah.
player isn't confident in that and actually, like, genuinely believes that the Blood Nations are ahead of them right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a fine thing. I think I do like what TNG is doing, where they're investing in some top end troops, because I do think one thing Pan probably wants to think about is getting out of the entirely scale based troop business. Like, he should have some, but I think he needs to diversify his armies. Probably, I don't know if he's been
So
doing it.
I mostly agree with you, and I do think that they should start doing major water boosters so they can spam cubes of their own,
Yeah.
as an example, because I think cubes are very versatile. I think they should prioritize building up their blood and death access, so they should be summoning liches.
Yeah.
And possibly mound fiends in order to build up like diversity of magic based troops.
Right.
But I will also say that I think that LA Pan's Gale's troops are actually good enough that you still want to have a fairly large number of them in the late game because they never really stop being useful. Like if you look
Yeah.
at the cataphracts and then compare those guys to like anything that you can summon, like, yeah, they're not going to go 1-for-1 against the Celestial Warrior, but you can get like 5 of those per Celestial Soldier and still feel great about using these guys as a front line.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you abandon them, but they can, they don't hit tremendously hard. When Army of Gold comes,
Yeah.
you can get them with weapons of sharpness and stuff. Like, there's things you can do, but I
They
think
don't
you
have
do
magic
want,
weapons.
yeah, you do want kind of like some elite magic weapons units, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. They should start diversifying into some of those like summon options and use them as like an augment. I was just
Right.
saying that like I
Yeah.
don't think that they should stop using the very solid scales troops that they already have. Similar to how like I think that some of the summon mages they can bring, like liches, for example, or fairy queens, are going to be very useful as the game goes on. But I also think that sages are going to be a major portion of their late game strength. Even though they've been recruiting them the entire game, they never stop being great mages.
Yeah. I think the other thing maybe I would want to emphasize too, if he's like valuing the blood position a ton, blood's super important. I love blood. I think it's great. I think the troops you get from it are great. However, in a mid skill game, blood is amazing. In a super high skill game, you can count on good timings on demonic cleansing. And that really does take the edge off of huge demon stacks. It opens up major fucking vulnerabilities. So I do think Scales armies can fight demon armies.
I agree with that. And I think that, for example, something like Atlantis is very strong late game.
Right.
As Rovsy pointed out, actually, he was talking this up, that like in the super late game situation, Atlantean troops with all the buffs on them and demonic cleansing up basically outtrade anything else because you can't spam any other units enough that aren't demons in
Right.
order to compete with that.
Right.
But I will say, though, that the advantage of blood, in my opinion, is strictly economical. That
Right.
you have your scale troops as well if that's a thing that you care about at that point in the game. But you also have 5 times as many gems as a gem focused nation.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So
But yeah, I think Pan's situation is great, and I think that they shouldn't be as down on themselves regarding their scaling possibilities as the players are right now. Hopefully, they get over the slump, in the 50 turns before they see this,
yeah.
and I'm sure that they are because they've been playing great.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
breaking into blood is more for like blood access to do blood spells rather than like you don't need to win. Like you can win deep late game in late age without being the guy with like 400 demons rolling around in an army, you know?
I agree.
So
I
I
do
wouldn't,
think they want some vampire lords though.
right. Yeah, you do want those. Rush of Strength is really good. So, and so is, Blood Rain if you're doing more outplays. And there's a bunch of good magic in blood.
Yeah, you want some vampire lords, and then if you can swing it, you also want some of the Inferno or
Yeah,
Cocytus casters in
right.
order to get rid of pesky super combatants that are
Yes.
otherwise very tricky to kill.
Meddling super combatants. Okay, we also have a message at the end. By the way, hyped to see you guys talking about the game. Yeah, for them, at the time of recording, the game is going to go up in, I believe, 2 weeks. So it's pretty close to the time they're writing these messages. They're going to get to see the very first turns.
Oh yeah. I would like to say that I think that our flow has improved dramatically because thinking back to how we were talking on this first few turns, I don't think that I was very coherent.
We rambled a lot. I mean, that's the thing. You and I have a lot to say about all the nations in the game and about how they interact. I mean, we could talk forever. And we did.
Yeah.
We actually
We
did.
did.
All right. And a message from Bettyheim. That lumber construct dying last turn was entirely not intentional. That was supposed to be a canceled move. I think I canceled it by queuing research on his point buffers, but didn't cancel movement. I missed it.
I actually missed that lumber construct dying, I think.
I think I did too. I don't remember seeing it.
That's really too bad because that was a very important lumber construct that had prompted so much curiosity about how it had vanished from that lake.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, so the dire portent going up. This is Pangea casting Mother Oak. So that's nice. And this feeds into a lot of the late game plays for Pangea. He could do either Gift of Health or they could do Gift of Nature's Bounty, which with really good scale stuff and really good mages is a great spell. So
Yeah. On the other hand, they're already getting very close to the point of covering their entire territory with forts and temples, so maybe it's not quite as much of a difference for them as it is for most everyone else. But yes,
yeah,
that's still kind of a game-ending spell.
right.
Even the Haunted Forest spell, I think that's what it's called. The one that does, Enchanted Forest. I'm sorry,
Enchanted,
the one
yeah.
that turns every forest into a temple is dreadfully powerful in the late game.
Yeah, that would be horrible for this. Like, this is a really forest dense region of the map right here. So, there's a lot of forest on the map in general. So yeah, that could be really good too. Okay, so where should we start? Do you want to start? There's not a ton to cover. Let's do the Arco thing, right?
That was gonna say like the one super exciting thing this turn is Arco riding out, so I want to start with that.
That's this one, I think, right?
Yeah.
So Arco is riding out. Oh, I know.
Oh, what? Nope, wrong province.
Gath. Oh, Gath is riding into Arco then. This is it.
Aha, yes.
Get out your
So-
popcorn.
So a couple things I want to note, which because we haven't seen these yet, is on Gath's army side. Before you go do the Arco summary, first of all, he's brought his Gibbors. So those guys are kind of interesting in that these are his magic weapon sources, and that he's kind of he had talked about how these guys are just kind of big stat sticks, but he's keeping them at the back of his army here, which is kind of interesting because it looks like he's either expecting flyers like air elementals or something to that effect,
Right.
where you would actually need that sort of backline. Or he thinks that they might be needed at the very end of a fight in order to put down something that had been able to survive the human troops. Second thing is the mercenary with the sylphs is incredibly powerful as the game goes late. So these guys are stormflyers. So these are one of the handful of like most mercenaries, they're just regular troops, right? So like, if you get a mage with them, that's great. If you get some troops with them, they can provide some chaff. But they kind of fall off in value as the game goes on. Sylphs do the opposite. As you get more buffs and as the battlefield gets more spells, those guys become even better because of those stunning armor negating attacks. So
Yeah.
this is an insanely good mercenary company to have, and he's got an enchantress stuck in the middle with them. So I'm not sure exactly what she's going to be casting, but I'm guessing that's probably actually just wooden warriors.
Yeah,
now
that's
that
what I
think
was
about it.
thinking. Yeah.
But yeah, normally I really like putting quickness on them if I can, because since they have armor negating attacks that don't benefit from strength, it's kind of hard to buff their offense any other way. But quickness provides both a defensive bonus and an offensive bonus in that the attack, given that they have a linked to weapon, can repel against certain opponents, and the defense also matters quite a bit. And of
Yeah.
course, the double attack makes them even more lethal and even more stunning.
He's also,
Yeah. So
speaking of armor negating damage, he's got a decent number. It looks like about 12-ish shed. Yeah, which are
Shadim, yeah,
Shadim, which
yeah. So
are very thick.
Shadim are super storm demons, basically.
Right.
They don't have the ethereal, but in every other way, they're better. So higher damage, and because they have that higher strength, their lightning also does more damage. They have lower storm power but because their base strength is already higher, even in a storm, they're still dealing more damage.
Yeah. They're really good. And then when they jump on somebody and start pounding them with their Thunder Fist, it's usually pretty good too. So yeah, and then a boatload of Seir. These are the Shed are not sacred, as you'll notice. The Seir are, so they're going to take the Gath Bless. And the smattering of mages, it looks like not a ton. Maybe
Yeah.
15 mages in total for Gath.
So as we go over to the Arco side and we start looking at like their mage ball, the difference in how these two sides are using mages is going to be fundamental. On the Gath side, the mages are essentially mages that are brought to cast a particular spell. So you've got guys that are, casting strength buffs. You've got guys that are casting protection buffs. Those guys are most likely weapons of sharpness casters, I would say. Yeah. Those are
They're not
given
actually.
that they have a Oh, they're not. Okay.
They're not.
Well, we'll see exactly what they're casting
Yeah.
then. He's bringing mages for specific purposes. Whereas on the Arco side, mages are kind of the core of his army. So his troops are just there to blob up around the mages, and he's relying on the firepower from these guys who are most likely going to be in a communion and who are probably going to be doing evocation spam, and everything else is just dedicated to trying to keep those mages alive and firing.
Right. Got some interesting anti-thug options here at the front too. That's kind of cool. These little these Banes.
Yeah, and that's actually something that's really important to bring anytime you're bringing like a death stack is if my opponent drops on this death stack with a super combatant, can I kill it?
Right.
So anytime you're putting together a big army, you need to have those options. And thugs carrying armor negating or armor piercing weapons are some of the best answers to that.
Yeah. So the core strategy we're going to see here. Well, one thing I'll do a spoiler. These guys are here to cast Earthquake, so you'll see that come out.
Oh.
I think, and it's one of the things, because Arco looked at this turn and sent me some notes. One of Arco's notes was like, he definitely should have cast Weapons of Sharpness. But he's choosing to do Earthquake, so we'll see that. But the core idea, he's also going to do Mass Flight. So it's like Mass Flight, Earthquake, we're going to kill a bunch of the Arco mages with Earthquake. That's the thought.
Or at least interrupt them, yeah.
Right. And that makes sense. So that's the main plan. And then have a bunch of really powered up demons jumping on these guys. The Arco play is basically, we've seen it again before against Zabalba. Pile of troops around your mages, let your mages kill everything. The troops are just there to stop them from getting to your mage core.
I will say though, I actually completely agree with Arco there. I like looking at it, it made perfect sense to me that weapons of sharpness would be the play, right? Because you're relying like the core of Gath's strategy is these demons, and the only thing that Earthquake is doing is basically trying to interrupt the mages or basically try to take advantage of a scripting gap on Arco's side to spam Earthquake if their mages are somehow not protected in any way. But every time that we've seen Arco deploy his armies, he has actually protected his mages, at least to an extent. So while the Earthquake might help, they're not going to be battlefield defining, and Weapons of Sharpness is a massively high impact spell.
Yeah, I don't remember how this goes, but I see no way these mages don't get Barkskin cast on them or something like that. Like it's just, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. We'll get to see. So without further ado, popcorn in hand, possibly drink in hand, let's go.
Yeah, so he's doing that bodyguard formation.
Mass formation,
love.
Mass protection on both sides, it looks like.
Yeah, given Gath's Bless, mass protection is very efficient.
Right. So that's on both sides. The Earthquakes come out now. So that was 2 Earthquakes, I think. We can maybe see by clicking on a mage here. Yeah, 2 Earthquakes.
So he did get some interruptions.
Right. Yeah,
that matters.
It matters.
That does matter. But no kills, it looks like.
Right. So if the kills we've got, it looks like... Oh, no, there's a decent number dead.
Oh, he does get some kills. Okay. That's a little surprising. That's
Yeah.
actually very good.
You got
That's
about
really
12,
good.
12 mage kills, it looks like. So,
One of those is a hero, the Hydrophoros. Um,
yeah.
it's one of the event,
The
or it's not
Jim
a proper
ones.
hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're from an event that LA Arco gets for like a ritual that they do in their capital. So they're kind of special, but yeah,
Right.
that's actually much more effective than I thought that the first two earthquakes would do.
So it did some things.
Yeah.
So there's going to be less firepower coming out. He might have like unbalanced the communion. But now as we get into, I'll turn on team colored squares so we can see a little better. Let's take a look at just the quality of troops engaged here. So this is like a tile. These guys have moss body. No luck. That's the one thing I'm really just sad Arco doesn't have yet. But
Yeah, Will of the Fates and Fog Warriors are the two spells that would make a much bigger difference than anything that he was able to cast so far.
right. And it's possible we haven't gone through and inspected the dead mages, but if the idea is, communion up and then cast the spell, it is possible that the earthquake stopped that from happening. So it is.
Can you check out the Crystal Sorceress? She's the only one who could have done the Fog Warriors. She's dead. Oh, maybe they just lost enough slaves.
Cast
I don't know
the
if she's doing
Arrowfend.
Arrowfend. Okay. But there was also one dead Crystal Sorceress. Okay. Nope. She was just
Communion
a slave.
slave.
So he's just not casting Fog Warriors then.
Oh, right, because he doesn't have air any other way.
Yeah. But he did bring those Crystal Sorceresses, so he did have, something that can cast it if it's boosted up enough. But it looks like he didn't get them.
One
He
second,
didn't get the
my dogs are barking. Let me fix this. 1 second. Okay, and we're back. Sorry about that. So yeah, not the Crystal Sorcerers casting Fog Warriors. We didn't check. Maybe the Sybil cast Will of Fates who tried to.
I think that if he's not casting Fog Warriors, he's almost certainly not casting Will of the Fates.
Well, no, but he's done mass protection. So he's at least 7. So the Fog Warriors was a decision not based on research.
Yeah, it's based on his ability to boost it. He doesn't want to assign that many slaves.
Oh, what was she going to cast? Serpent's Blessing. That didn't go off. So he did interrupt a few key spells. But yeah, no Will of the Fates.
And then those Seir in this particular matchup are extremely deadly because they're going to be basically firing into center of mass. So similar to how, those
You mean the
gifts from
Shadim?
heaven. Sorry, the Shadim, yes.
Yeah.
Because when you have this like blob like this, then ranged attacks become extremely deadly because they can hit that center of mass. And when that center of mass is these mages, then having even just like the AoE 1 effect is so powerful.
Yeah. Wait, is it AoE 1?
So they have a direct damage, and then they also have an area of effects shock 1, I believe. Similar to
okay. Let's take a look at these guys.
The lightning, yeah.
Oh, yeah. How about that? Cool. That's significant if they don't have thunder or shock resistance. Yeah,
so even if they miss, they don't miss.
Yeah, and so I think Arco's point about weapons of sharpness was it actually did take the Seer a while to chew through the Gath lines. I mean, if he put up Fog Warriors, man, it would have made such a difference.
Have magic weapons.
No, they don't.
Yeah, it would have been like Twist Fate at least, but yeah.
No, these guys don't have magic weapons because
Yes, they do.
they do. You're right. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, I was thinking for a second he just relied on the ones built into the Seer or the Gibbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
No, he's got both. I mean, I do like that the Givers have like innate magic weapons, and it gives you some versatility with your bless options. But if I'm taking Drain Gath, I tended to go for a Levite Bless, which of course is going to feature magic weapons.
Right.
And while this Gath didn't go as hard into the Bless as like I might have thought they could have, they definitely still did take a Bless that was designed for the Seer.
Right. So we've got 36 dead mystics here, and then a big crew of other. This is a tremendous number of mages.
Yeah, this was essentially Arco's final stand.
Yeah.
And they did some damage. They got rid of a good chunk of the mercenaries, at least in 42 Seer, which isn't nothing. But they've definitely done a lot less damage to Gath than they did to Jamalda. Yeah.
I think, man, if they had Will of Fates and Fog Warriors, I think they actually would have won this fight. Of course, it's easy to say that.
sure that they would have won even with both of those buffs up, but they definitely would have done a lot more damage just because their front line would have held out long enough so that their evocation would have done more damage.
Yeah,
I still don't
maybe
think
if
that they would have
they
won.
protected against like earthquake too. So
Yeah, if they had a mass flight caster that was not, or an out of communion mass flight class caster, so that it went up
right,
before the earthquakes, then maybe. Um,
but that's hard for Arco to do. And were these
yeah,
turn one earthquakes? It looks like it. Yeah, they
yep,
were turn one. So
yeah. So you need either like a fairy queen or otherwise get boosters up in order to do that as
right.
Arco. I mean, Arco does have crystal shield access, which makes it a little bit more accessible. But you still need an air two mage, which is big
Yeah.
ask. Along those lines, I actually think Storm would have been helpful. Um,
Yeah.
although that would have, it's kind of a mixed blessing because the Silk functioned just fine in a storm. So he still would have been hit by the mercenaries. And along the same lines, it would actually be a buff to the Shadim.
Right. So if we look at the kills, the Seer got most of them. The Shadim didn't actually get that many, only 19. It's a little bit surprising.
Yeah. I will say though that the kills that the Shadim got, and I'm disappointed at Winter for getting the pluralization wrong there when they got it right in the description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this
Anyway,
is like calculated. It's not like because these are shit and it's like we'll just add an S if there's more than one.
yeah,
Yeah.
they actually do the IM pluralization on certain things, and then they also get the pluralization right for
In the army report?
Ubar's units. Oh, for other things, yeah. So like for Ubar's units, for example, Shaitan, the plural is Shaitan, and they get that right.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, so there are some like manual plurals.
Interesting.
Anyways, so the Shadim, while they got fewer kills, most of those kills are mages.
Yeah, that's probably
So
true.
those are very high impact hits, and then they also get paralysis from the AoE one shot.
Right. That's true. So let's go take a look at that. That is over here. So this is the battle. He pinged this with horrors first, but this almost certainly didn't gym bait. Let's double check, make sure it didn't, because that could have been influential.
No, it shouldn't have.
Yeah, didn't. And yeah, he's popped this fort now. So Arco tried to raid this with just super budget raiders, didn't work. I think this is a Horde of Skeletons Camazot.
Yeah,
No,
I'm really no,
a
just
water
regular.
bottle.
I will say that I'm very impressed at how everyone is using the Zots mages.
Yeah.
Like everyone gets that. Actually, these guys are really good, by the way, and then they're taking full advantage of it, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool. Arithia pushing their advantage here, making sure they're getting a decent part of the spoils with these golems. I think we watched this. This is the one that's like a nail biter.
Yeah, this is the one that was very close. But so the kit looks half right to me in that the Chopping Grass shield is great against horrors because they don't have any resistances. So, if you're using that, then you can stop them from hitting you back. But that spear is almost useless. Like
Right.
it requires hitting in order to do anything, as opposed to something like a brand, whose AoE one effect would actually always affect the horror. And it
Right.
provides no defense other than your 10 attack repel, which isn't going to do anything to a horror.
Yeah.
I think that this is just like the same kit that he had for raiding underwater. But yeah, this guy barely
It's just,
survived.
this
and
is, you really want to put brands on golems. Golems just really can't make use of other weapons unless they're like very specific or you're buffing their attack skill.
Yeah, in army thug golems, where you're disabling the enemy some other way and then letting the golem thwack something, those guys can work with alternative weapons, but otherwise, yeah, you don't want to rely on the golem's base attack skill to carry a fight.
Yeah, this is pretty horrible. So anyway, barely works. He got to 7. I was like, when I was watching, I was like, oh, he's dead. And then no, he ends up winning. So he did get mute for his troubles though. So there's not really a way to get mute off of golems. It's kind of for life. Being inanimate and mindless, it's never, Gift of Health can get it off, I think, but I don't think there's another way. So
Yeah, I think that's it.
And then he raids here with these golems. So, and then putting a small crew on top of this fort, which I think has been abandoned. And then he's got a small crew on top of this fort. So despite not really winning any victories, he is managing to kind of lay claim to a significant portion of the spoils, which is good for him. I wish he was
He
doing
needs
it
it,
with
yeah.
more like assertiveness, not in like he's been assertive in claiming stuff, but he hasn't been assertive in terms of like, hey, look what I got. I got some stuff you don't want to mess with, you know?
Yeah, nothing that Arithia has deployed so far has actually looked scary.
Right.
He's almost the opposite of Eddieheim in that effect. And that Eddieheim's been very forward about putting together very scary armies intentionally to show that, that they have teeth to them.
Right.
Um, Whereas the only armies that Arithia deployed in terms of like actually, having a decent number of troops and mages in the same place just got wiped.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoops. Um, I believe, oh yeah, so Ianchi had mentioned, they sent me a message in Discord and said, check our cap this, or Pythium's cap this turn. And it's just assassin genocide. So here's one of the, it's kind of weird. You have to do it, like leave and go back to the menu to see it. So here's one of the average assassins, the workaday assassins that Pythium's been fielding. Handful of acorns and a true shot longbow, which is kind of cool. Apparently
True
these
shot
do
longbow
pretty
is an
well.
undervalued weapon.
Yeah.
Because in an assassination battle, you really only need to hit once.
Right. So he's had
The
the
Satyr are also assassins, yeah.
Yeah, let's see the Satyr assassin battle. Because this just gives us some insight into what's been happening. Yeah, these guys don't have any gear, just their middle members. You can see from the gift, but
The Satyr sprite is very interesting.
yeah.
This particular Satyr is unique among all of the winter art.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if all of them. So you can see it's a lot of Satyrs. We should see it because at some chance with the Satyrs,
You got the Lar.
yeah. I hate that I can't do it from here. I have to like zoom out and then go back in. So this is a Lara assassin. Oh, with a midget masher.
Yeah, that's not an assassin. That's
Just the
stealthy
stealthy
boy.
one. Yeah, okay. What would this
I
be good
wonder what
against? I guess they
have
can
no
do it
idea.
large and hit Cav.
It's very odd because I mean, without a black heart, he's not an assassin. So
Right.
I don't actually know what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Um, it's another one. Wait, is that the same one?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, this guy doesn't have anything. So yeah, another Lar.
Maybe that Laura has actual gear because I mean, Pythium had been using these guys as thugs before.
Ooh.
Oh no, he's just got gems, foul vapors. Okay,
Yeah.
doesn't get to cast it.
This one guy is sitting here. Where is he? So this guy? Yeah. This guy's just got pin gear. Just turn one Soul Slay. Oh, it looks like he picked up
has
the midget masher.
Very fun.
Nice. So the other thing about this actually is a kind of low key way to abuse the game that we haven't seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the finals eventually. Is you could basically do like XP farming if you contract with somebody, and they just send scouts and have them retreat. And you could do it if you're patrolling the scouts out. You can have an infinite number of battles basically, and each battle wins you like three XP for everybody in the
Yeah,
field.
generally. So the downside of doing that though is the unrest generation.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of hit and miss, in that if you are doing that, you want to like designate a province for it.
Right. But so like this guy, well, let's look. So this guy, we'll look at him. Well, no, is he? Okay, yeah. So he's 91 XP at the beginning. By the end, he's gonna have his next star. Yeah, he's 135. And he didn't do anything. He just cast Iron Skin every time. So it's a lot of XP.
He's contributing. He's got a Moonblade.
That's right. He's flexing on them, showing his Moonblade. This is kind of interesting. Tianchi attacks here with the Air Elemental Summoner.
I believe.
Oh, no, Horde of Skeletons? Oh, no, Horde of Skeletons and then Air Elemental. That was touch and go.
Setup. Yeah,
It worked, though. The Horde of Skeletons.
that's certainly not the order I would have gone. Well, I'm guessing that's just a fatigue thing, that when he casts Air Elemental, he doesn't cast other spells.
Yeah.
So
They did end up catching the Cav charge, though, which was kind of nice. Maybe he knew there was Cav here. It had been his province before. Oh my gosh, that was so tight. So yeah, nice little pickup here.
the Shadow Seer is interesting.
Yeah.
Was there an event that spawned that Shadow Seer?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
saw that.
that's the Path to Ascension event. Yeah, so in this case, it was false because Pythium is not going to be winning.
Oh no. Yeah, I don't think so.
That's the event that I had mentioned in a previous episode, having falsely thought that it was associated with the Stalkers. But every time that I've had that event generate for me, I wound up winning.
Well, it
The
could
Your
be.
Path to
It
Ascension
could
is for Steam.
technically apply to TNG. I mean, it
No,
was
it's
under
Pythium.
Pythium's control, but TNG had already laid claim to it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I always count it for whoever actually gets the event.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Shadow Citadel was wrong this time.
Yes. 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 Oh man, I didn't notice this before. This is a hefty. The trolls exacting a hefty price here. So he's getting
I
a
mean,
ton of buffs on these guys. How did this not work?
that's some very interesting
Uh
mage
oh.
support.
Uh,
Goodness.
oh god.
He
There's a gap in the lines.
I mean, they're just there to support the PD, right?
Well, they had some heavy footmen of their own.
Huh?
That was painful.
I mean, that's just an event, so it's not like he was scripting for it. But what are the heavy footmen doing there then? That's very
Early
Oh,
spring.
I
No,
see.
it's trolls. He knew it was coming.
He knew because the troll done.
Yeah.
Ah,
So yeah, too bad. I wonder if there's anything else.
I actually do like that it gives you a forewarning for some of the more dangerous attacks, like how your scouts can report about barbarians incoming before they strike.
Yeah, I like that too. It's really annoying. I mean, the thing that sucks about barbarians is you still lose your population if they come, but it is nice getting a warning. So TNG Pythium this is their last province. I think all their forts are gone.
I think,
They
and
are,
that's the army that's basically only mages, which
yeah,
TNG has been hitting with fires from afar to nuke them.
yeah. 1 second. Yeah, so they've been hitting it with fires from afar. I wonder if they hit them again recently. Doesn't look like it. It's a lot of mages.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Only one unit left.
The lonely combatants.
Yeah, that guy needs to get like Gift of Reason so that he can join everyone else in the commander's tent.
This is what we
Imagine
need.
30 guys, 30 guys in the commander's tent and one unit left alone.
They're like on one hand, you're like this squad. They're telling each other like, all right, guys, we just got to get a fort back. But then somebody reminds them like, no, we can foreign recruit things. We don't even need a fort. We're just going to set up our city state somewhere without even having a fort. The true way Pythium was meant to be played. Fortless.
Well, they can't draw income though. Doesn't quite that much.
That's true. Illwinter, if you're watching, we need a Pythium tax collector ASAP. That way we
Actually,
can.
that would be a good unit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if Pythium is meant to represent the Byzantine Empire, then they probably should have a tax collector on their Magister Militum unit.
Yeah, I mean, the Romans
elite
basically
general
invented taxes. And the Byzantines was, of course, inherited all the Roman tax system stuff, right?
I could go into great detail on that,
Yeah.
but I think that would add another 15
Okay.
minutes to our episode.
Let's
But,
stop
like,
there.
yeah, so like the original Roman tax collection was literally a contract where like
Yeah.
you would bid on and buy the right to tax farm a province.
Right.
But anyways, by the Byzantine era, it was a lot more formalized. But the Magister Militum absolutely would raise local taxes on their own.
Okay. Cool.
To summarize, the highest end Pythium commander should probably have tax collector.
It would just be cool if having forts was a choice. Like if you could like come into your game and be like, destroy fort on like what if you didn't even start with a fort? What if just you spawned like there's a no fort nation?
There is actually a nation like that in DE, I believe. It's one of the horse tribe nations.
Oh,
It's kind of
Tartary?
like a Tartary, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't use forts, right?
They don't use them, but they still start with one.
Oh,
Like
okay.
somebody just needs I want deep into the paint. Your fort automatically destroys turn 1. And
You
it's
could
like,
mod that.
yeah,
That's not that hard, actually. Yeah, you make one of the starting sites destroy the fort turn 1.
right. And then it's like, okay, no forts for the rest of the game. Let's go.
Yeah, I think Tartary could do that if Rob wants to implement it that way.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Okay, so who to next? We've covered Arco. We've covered TNG and
Yeah.
Pythium. The Agarthan
There's a lot of
Empire.
big battle.
Yeah, nothing too much to show here. Oh, This is something to show,
Oh yeah, that's their. It's the farming thing with the
right?
sickle
Right.
sickle farming.
Pan talking about doesn't know how to scale and then sets up his own. One of the things that Arco was pointing out to me is that the good reason about or the good thing about targeting underwater is you're pretty much guaranteed not to have enemy scouts here. This transaction that's happening is basically totally opaque.
Oh yeah, that's actually not something that I had thought of. I was thinking that they were targeting underwater just because these guys only deal piercing damage and it's a very weak PD type, which makes it very efficient for farming purposes.
Right. So the it's interesting. This is a air empowered lich. You would think he would use a cheaper one, but
I think that's just what he has.
yeah.
Like he has an air empowered lich because he needs that Wailing Winds caster, and he doesn't have that many liches yet.
So it
Once he
takes
summons,
it's kind of interesting. His script was invulnerability and then rigor mortis, and then it takes like 30 turns for him to wake back up. But then once he does, everybody's like pretty much passed out. And so then he gets to chew through them until the turn timer. And because he's the one attacking, then he runs and he just chews his way out.
yeah, this is actually an extremely efficient way of doing the sickle farming because with the sickle, you really do want to get your guy to be getting those kills, and it's kind of hard to do that a lot of the time because pretty much anything that you would be willing to sacrifice is going to be kind of expensive, right?
Right.
Or kind of cheap, rather. Sorry, which means that they tend to have fairly low morale. So, like, if you're hitting them with like a horde of maenads or whatever, they're most likely going to run before you actually get to your gem cap.
Right.
Whereas hitting province defense has a number of upsides. So one, it's free. Like it literally doesn't cost Gath anything. And as long as the Lich is able to retreat every time, which being an immortal with 30 morale is not going to be a problem.
Right.
So yeah, this is perfect. This is like as efficient as you can get sickle farming to get.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm definitely gonna have to copy this setup. It's a really good one. I mean, you guys did it in the previous game. I can't remember what was
I did it with first Pelagia, and then I gave him a better ratio so that I could sickle farm with him, mostly just to deny Pelagia the death gems.
right. What
I
were
gave
y'all
him like
using
a.
though? Were you using maenads?
I was using maenads, yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense for
I had
Pan.
infinity maenads to throw around
Right.
at that point.
The other thing you can kind of do it with is Howl. That's another way to get tons of free spawn if the defender casts Howl. So
Yeah.
mm,
I don't know what Pelagia was using to farm it with. And like I mentioned, I basically just outbid Pelagia just to deny him the death gems. I was getting like, I think we were doing like a 3-to-1 ratio or something, where I was
okay,
getting a very small percentage of the share.
right. Okay, so that's that. Vedheim, we've got this really cool. So this is pretty cool. So this is these demon knights are pretty good. Like these are very. I mean, this is if this was a player, I mean, it's a pretty tremendous investment. But he's got
Yeah.
this guy coming in to buff this dude up with Moss Body and probably other things, God knows what. And this is just a very tough thug. You're talking, and maybe you want to sing the accolades of this particular Ice Devil.
Yes. We talked about him off stream, but this is basically the one Ice Devil that you want to get because he's the only magic phase capable one because he's the astral one. So once you roll this one, you basically stop summoning Ice Devils under most circumstances. But there is one thing that Vedheim might want more Ice Devils for, and that's that they have 120 leadership and 30 morale. So they don't rout from Wailing Winds, and they give a massive morale bonus to the troops that they're leading. So if Vedheim wants to be using armies of their Rim Vedi, then Ice Devils are amazing as just generals to port those guys around.
Yeah, that's a great point. So he has an army on top of this fort, and then this is kind of one of the last little Arco squads. It's unclear whether this Arco squad comes and tries to knock Vedheim off here, or maybe they evacuate because they invited Vedheim to vulture them. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come down here to mess with somebody else, or probably come up here to mess with Sibalba.
Real quick, with the +1 morale from Blessing and the full leadership bonus from the Ice Devil, if they give them the +1 inspiration hat, +1 inspiration horn, and the what's the spear that gives
The Herald
the
Lance.
Herald Lance?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they give them a Herald Lance, then the total morale bonus that they get is what is that? What? 3 +3 from leadership, +1 from the bless. So that's 8. So they would have 20 morale base on Rimvetti.
Mm. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So that's pretty
And
good
it is
against
something
women.
I think Arco had mentioned to me before about taking morale as part of a Vetiheim Bliss, just because it is actually a weakness of the Rimveti, and they do get repelled. So for certain types of units, they can really have their damage output lowered by their low morale as well.
Yeah. So
So
getting them up to 20 morale with that kind of a leader is actually a very significant swing.
yeah, it's a big deal. And just being able to put them in like good formations too also matters. So okay, I don't think we have too much left to cover.
No, I think so.
I guess the last thing is just Zabalba. He's got this fort popped. So hopefully we'll see him storm Ulm next turn. And yeah, I think like you said, he's probably going to power up. We're pretty close to an hour, so I don't think we have time for Path to Victory on this particular episode. But maybe next
Yeah.
episode we'll do it.
The one thing that I'll say about Trabalba is that he has shown very little ambition in terms of what spoils he wants.
Right.
Um, and from peeping his Discord channel, this is at least partially intentional in that he's very comfortable being a middling power. But the problem that he's going to run into is that as we enter this later stage in the game where there are very few nations left, he's actually going to be at the bottom tier instead of at the middle as he'd been aiming for.
Right. Yeah, I think he's not, I don't think people are going to look at him as food. I think he's got enough research and stuff that people are going to look at him as food, but people might look at him as like, this is going to be a good time for us to put down a major blood power, you know? So it wouldn't be unreasonable if like TNG and Gath made a pact to put him down together or something. I mean, I think there's reasons why that wouldn't happen diplomatically, but yeah, I think you're right. He is a bottom power right now.
Yeah, the alliance that I would see putting him down was TNG and Erythia, but I think we talked about that a little bit last episode.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are any closing thoughts?
No, I think we just about covered it.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you so much for joining me to host this particular turn in this wonderful series.
Yeah, it's
And
been fun.
yeah, viewers, if you made it to the end, many thanks, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.